Alrighty, gentlemans. Here's what we got going on. This here is my OG good saw. So I say that because I had a couple saws before this one and had a friend that had a big tree come down, in a storm, crossed his driveway, and his wife was in a wheelchair, could not walk at all, and the tree was almost 4 feet in diameter at the base. Problem was that he didn't have a saw big enough to cut the tree. He didn't have a friend with a saw big enough to cut the tree, and he had no way to get his wife in and out for medical treatment. So he was getting pretty concerned. Another buddy and I decided to go help him out, but neither one of us had a saw big enough. So I went down to the local farm store, bought a different brand of saw. Not going to badmouth that one right now, but that saw was the most difficult to deal with. I don't even have words. Anyway, the frustration with that saw was so great. We did what we did. We were able to get that tree cut up, and the next day I took it back and I went to the local, not even local, had to go to the next town, to the Stihl dealer, and said, I'm sick of messing with cheap saws. I want something decent. So at the time, this was a fairly new model. This saw has been good to me. It's been really, really good to me. It hasn't seen a lot of use in the last few years other than occasional storm cleanup, but when I first got it, I cut a lot of firewood with it. I did a lot of storm cleanup, heated my home for many years with wood from this saw. It hurt to buy it initially because it was expensive. As you guys know, the pro saws are very expensive, but the only regrettable time is that initial purchase, the initial writing the check. So as the old saying goes, buy once, cry once. I believe that to be the case. This saw is getting ready to turn 30 years old, believe it or not. Always tried to take good care of it, tried to keep the chain out of the dirt, never ran it out of bar oil. Anyway, just tried to be careful with it. It was a big investment for me at the time. But this sprocket here needs replaced. Got a factory OEM sprocket. Here we go. The fantastic thing about these is they're not expensive. There's no reason to try to buy a cheap aftermarket junker, and there's no reason to take this to a saw shop to do this. So just going to do a little swap out video here. if you don't know how to do what I just did, you're probably not watching this video. But I loosened the bar nuts, backed the tension off the chain. Now the nuts are off completely. If you've got a Husqvarna, you know that your sprocket's different. Your clutch is on the outside, I mean. But I am being careful with the chain. Just sharpened it. It is sharp. So, there we go. I like a wood-topped workbench for a lot of the things that I do because of things like that. I don't have to worry about tearing up my chain. It doesn't make a lot of noise clanging around. And right here, all I'm going to do, take the screwdriver side. I'm going to, maybe not. There we go. Just going to pop this E-clip off, just like that. Now, I went slow. Notice I held on to it. Give it a big old fling. Shoot it across the shop onto the floor, under a shelf, and you may not find it again. Off with the old one. And right here, all I'm going to do, take the screwdriver side. I'm going to, maybe not. There we go. Just going to pop this E-clip off, just like that. Now, I went slow. Notice I held on to it. Give it a big old fling. Shoot it across the shop onto the floor, under a shelf, and you may not find it again. Off with the old one. So you can see a little bit of wear in here. It's not horrible, but going to go back on the same direction as I took it off. The old one came off with these holes out. Put the new one on the same way. There's not any debris in there. If there was, I'd be making sure I cleaned that out. There we go. Jeez. Don't forget to put the washer back on. Now, I'm going to try to pop it back on here with the bar wrench. Boom. Just like that. Boom. Just like that. So, the reason I wanted to show it this way is because it doesn't take any special tools. There's nothing at all you need other than what you've already got. So, there we go. No slop back and forth. No slop there. We're good. So, if you don't happen to know this already, if you see somebody, if you are seeing somebody running along and the wording on their bar is upside down, don't get wigged out. Don't get wigged out. You should rotate your bar every other time you change every other time you file the chain, or every other time you change chains, or every time you change a chain. Change a chain. I need some more coffee or something. Anyhow, helps keep the wear even on the bar. When I took the bar off, I had it right way up. If I just flip it over, notice my teeth are going the wrong direction. So I would need to change the chain direction also. But it's not time to flip it. Get my teeth back in the sprocket. Line it up there on my adjuster. Make sure that the chain is out in the rails. I'm not going to make this tight yet. I don't have the cover on. I just want to get a look. Run it nice and smooth. Looks good. So for folks that are used to the newer saws that have the captive nuts, they stay on the cover. This saw does not have that, because that's a newer creation. Probably a good idea to have a pack of these laying around. They're super cheap. I actually am going to order a set because I'm afraid to say this. These are the original nuts. Never lost them, so now I'm afraid that I'm going to. A little bit of tension up on the bar. This is not a new chain, so I don't expect it to stretch much. Not going to leave a lot of slop in it. It's not tight. There we go. Got a little bit of play. Runs around nice and smooth. Still fairly snug. I got a little bit of tension. All right, I'm feeling good about that. See where this is at. Okay, feels good. That's why I like the wood top bench. Not worrying about my chain. Back and forth. I really like to do, just like you would do a bolt circle on a car wheel, cylinder head, whatever. Back and forth. Snug, snug, tighter, tighter, all the way tight. There we go. That's it. It's that simple. 12 bucks, 15 bucks, whatever it was. Replaced it. This one is not terrible. I'm going to keep it around in case something wonky happens and that one splits or something. I really can't imagine that happening, but keep this around in case I need it. But that's it. So that's a perfect example of why we should take just a little bit of time to do some maintenance stuff, because it doesn't cost a lot of money. It doesn't take a lot of time. This saw now is $1,000, or a little over $1,000 for a 362, and there's no reason to mistreat something that is that expensive and need to replace it unnecessarily. I have contemplated putting a muffler on it. I probably will put an aftermarket muffler on it. I've got a set of aftermarket dogs. I just haven't put them on. Anyway, thought I would share that with you for folks that aren't familiar with how to change that sprocket out. I just replaced, or I did the 3/8 to 1/4 inch conversion on my little Echo 2511 copycat saw, and I wish I would have taken a video of that. Another one of those things. Super simple to do. Maybe I'll go back through it again, show you guys how to do it. Anyhow, thanks. Hope this helps somebody out. This is something I wish came with every saw. It was a nice case. That's helped me to keep this intact over the years, because I'd always put it back in its full case, and that's kept me from throwing this in a truckload of firewood and getting it all banged up. Something else, guys. I keep a little paintbrush. I keep one of these little paintbrushes in the case, and when I go to fill the bar oil and the fuel, I just come in here like this, knock the sawdust off. Takes 30 seconds. That's it. I know the newer saws have the flip caps. My 462's got the flippy caps. I still use the brush because there's still some debris around there. Now, you're never going to get every single speck, especially when you dribble a little bit of bar oil around there. But the more you get that debris off of there, the less of that stuff is going to end up in your fuel and oil tank. The less of it ends up clogging up your filter, the less of it gets into your engine, the less of it's going to plug up your oiling system, whatever. You're just reducing the risk of that. I hear folks all the time whine and argue and complain about whatever, fill in the blank. I've got this problem with my saw running. I've got, you know, this size saw won't oil a bar over 16 inches. There's 1,000 people out there that'll say a 362 won't pull a bar over 18 inches. This is a 20-inch bar. A fair amount of time I've used this to pull a 28-inch bar. Why? Because it was the biggest saw I had and I needed to cut a tree that was over 4 feet. So I had a 28-inch bar. 28-inch bar went on this, and I used it for what I needed to use it for. Never got the bar hot, never burnt the paint off of it, never had any trouble with it oiling. Keep your stuff clean. That's going to make a huge difference. But I didn't try to push it. Put the big bar on it, keep the chain sharp, put it on the log, let it eat. Don't try to crowd it, don't try to push it. Did just fine. Now that I've got the 462, there is a tremendous difference. For folks that are trying to figure out what they want to do, hey, I'm looking for my first big saw, what should I get? There's a lot of folks that say this is a good all-around saw. I agree, it's been a great saw to me for a lot of years. Today, if I was starting the whole process over, you get a 462 to start with instead of this, instead of the 362. If I could afford it, and I'd really try to afford it, get the 462 instead of the 362, and then get a different saw as a small one, something like a 261. I do not currently have a 261, so I can't personally speak to that, but size-wise, weight-wise, one of my big focuses is the performance for the weight. 462, absolutely an animal. It only weighs a pound more than this, and my 462 with the 25-inch light bar compared to this with the standard bar, nearly identical. Nearly identical in weight, not identical in performance. The 462 does pull the bigger bar a lot easier, a lot more powerful. If you're trying to limb a lot of little stuff, save your back, get something smaller. Anyway, talk about those things later. Wanted to give you a shot at changing out that sprocket. There we go.